January 5th, 2015 Halifax Elementary School Committee meeting. Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.
We're going to start out with a student presentation.
I would like to share with everyone that we have two wonderful third grade teachers that have been working with our new technology. So at this point, I would like to introduce Mrs. Kearney and Mrs. Peterson, who would then introduce their students. Mrs. Kearney.
Hi, I'm Mrs. Kearney, third grade teacher. I work in a school with...
I'm Erin Peterson. I'm one of the third grade inclusion teachers.
So we co-teach together. We also have a paraprofessional who works in our classroom, Christine Galanzi. So together, the three of us have incorporated our technology into the curriculum. And I'm just going to give you a background of how the classroom got into the Google Chrome. First of all, third grade, we have a social studies curriculum that is based on the history of Massachusetts. And so we had been studying the Wampanoag people and the Pilgrims. We went down to, for our field trip, we went down to the Mayflower, to the Wampanoag Village, and to Plymouth Plantation. Part of that was the history of trading between the settlers and the natives. So we invited some parents into the classroom, parent volunteers into the classroom. Can I just stand a minute? And the children designed, with the help of the parents, a trading sack. They had a trading activity that followed this, whereas they brought in 10 items each, and then they had a trading day in which they laid their 10 items out on their desk, and then they got to go around and trade with other children in the classroom. So they learned the art of trading.
We talked about how they had to shake hands to seal the deal and some things that they would have done to actually secure the trade and know that it was a mutual agreement between the two parties, and kind of what they were willing to give up or to get in return, and the importance of what you had versus what you needed. So there was a lot of different social pieces that we were able to bring into the activity.
And even though they might have come in with 10 items, they might have gone home with 15 if they had
if something was a little bit more meaningful to them.
To other children.
They may have gone home with less than 10, depending on what they wanted to give up.
So we wanted to incorporate writing and our new technology into this activity. So we got the Chromebooks.
So this is what the new Chromebooks look like. We pushed the cart out of the way just because it's a little bit large to bring in here, but this is what our new Chromebooks look like. They're very user-friendly, they're very light and easy for the kids to access. So we started bringing them into the classroom each afternoon that I was in there, and we went through a whole writing process.
The cart is portable, it has wheels on it, so I'm upstairs, so we just bring up the elevator and bring it down. The kids are assigned a number, they're checked out under that same number every time we use the Chromebooks, and then we make sure that we get that same number back. So if there's a problem with it or if it's missing, we know that, so-and-so has number 3.
And within the first day or two, they knew that system right down, what number was theirs. When I called out number 1, they raised their hand and we walked over to it. They have, rules that they follow when they have it, and they've, really, really done a nice job following the rules and getting to know, that it's definitely a privilege to be able to use the technology in the classroom, and they've done a nice job with that.
So with the inclusion class also, we did a lot of hands-on with the making of the trading sacks. They dealt with social skills with the trading aspect of their the
actual building of the trading sack. We were able to kind of build in some fine motor skills where sometimes in a regular education classroom it's not easy to access some of those skills. So we were able to do the with the needle and the thread, which actually was a fine motor skill for me too, trying to get it through the felt.
And patterns. They used the beads to make patterns. Yeah. We got the patterns involved in there also.
And then they got to be have their time to be creative with that too, which was great. So when we moved on to the writing.
We moved on to the writing.
All right, I'm just going to sneak behind you. So what we did was we set up a Google Classroom, and some of this technology is new for Mrs. Kearney and myself too. So it was a bit of a learning experience for all of us, but I think we're all pretty well versed in it now. So we set up a Google Classroom that was specific to this activity. So each of the kids were able to log on. Each of the students has their own log on, and they were able to get on and then go through Google Classroom and pull this up. So this is kind of the home page of what Google Classroom looks like. And then I have it minimized just so I can use the pen so I apologize if it's not that easy to see. But basically, so what happens is then I can post a document that then they can rename for themselves and save within their own Google Drive format. So once they click on the assignment once, then they're able to save it for themselves, and they can access it home, they can access it whenever they have access to the Google Classroom. So, or to their Google Drive, I'm sorry. So we scroll down. So this was the first thing that they did. Oh, so here, this was just the blank document that then, so we didn't have to go through the whole this was just a first step in it. We didn't want them to have to go to Word or go to Google Doc. This was just set up for them, and then they went up here, they tapped up here, and they renamed it for themselves. They saved it to their own drive. So that was the trading stack. And go back to, sorry, I'm short here. And then this was the first step. So they went back after we built the trading stack, and they went back and they set up their own graphic organizer for what they needed to do. So they wrote down the materials that they needed, and then they wrote down each step individually, what they needed to do to complete. So it was kind of a how to make a trading stack. The great thing about having it right on the computer right here and able to just, fix it and send it along, we were able to modify it as needed. So for some of our kiddos that might need a bigger space to write in, or they might need smaller spaces or just bigger lines visually, we were able to enlarge it and specifically share it with that specific student so that the kids weren't overwhelmed with extra documents. So that was pretty neat. I'm just going to get rid of some of this stuff so it doesn't get confusing. All right, back to Google Classroom. So after they did their graphic organizer, then we were able to have them do their piece of writing, which is what we brought some of our students here today. Did I miss anything?
No.
No? Okay. So we brought some of our students here today to share the pieces of writing that they actually did. So they went through their graphic organizer, they typed it up, and then they went and they did a first draft, or sloppy copy as we call it sometimes, and a second draft, and then a final draft. And they went in and uploaded a picture of themselves holding their trading stack. So we brought a few students here today that would like to share their trading stacks with us. Their trading stack how-to pieces of writing. Who's going first? Lindsay?
Lindsay is going to go first.
All right. So I'll have this up here so that you guys can follow along with it, and she's going to come up here and share with us.
Should come right around.
She wants us right up front. This is Lindsay Laws, and she volunteered. I had 3 students who volunteered. Lindsay is one of them. All right. The first paragraph is the materials that they needed to collect. The second paragraph was about the steps that they used, and the third paragraph was trading day. All right, go ahead.
My name is Lindsay Laws, and here's my paragraph about trading day. A Native American trading sack is very fun to make. First, begin by choosing soft brown felt. Next, get a needle and yarn to sew the felt together. Now you may select things to decorate your sack. You can select feathers, beads, foam leaves, foam animals, foam words, and buttons. You're going to need a stapler, gimp, Q-tips, plates, hole puncher, and tacky glue. First, I picked up 2 very light brown pieces of soft felt. Second, I used my yarn to sew the 2 pieces of felt together on 3 sides, leaving one side open. Then I put the plastic beads on my sparkly gimp in the pattern big bead, little bead, big bead, little bead. After that, we used a hole puncher to poke a hole through the felt. Meanwhile, we put the gimp through the holes. Later, my mom used the yarn to make a fringe with the beads. Finally, I decorated it with brown sparkly leaves and foam blue owls, yellow foam sunflowers, white feathers, and multicolored beads. In conclusion, my mom thinks my trading sack is awesome, and so do I. A few days after I finished my trading sack, I traded with my classmates. I got to bring in 10 things. The 10 things were 3 bumpy light-up rings, 2 bouncy balls, and 5 rainbow balloon bracelets. I got to see what everybody had to trade before I could even touch somebody's trading stuff. A lot of the stuff looked like good trading items. My best trade was with Calissa. I swapped her my bouncy ball and bumpy light-up ring for a multicolored pen. I traded with Calissa, Piper, Noah, Jason, Haley, Anthony, and Avery. Trading day with my class was so much fun. I hope we can do another trading day. And here's my trading sack.
And next is Piper Gilgan, and she wants to do it all by herself.
This is a quick representation of what Piper did for her graphic organizer when it was all written up. And then she translated that to here. So this is her writing.
All right. So, this is Piper Gilgan, and she's going to share her piece of writing.
My Indian trading sack was easy and fun to make. I would start by getting the brown felt squares you want to use. Then you get the supplies you will need, which could be colored beads, feathers, buttons, stickers, yarn, and gimp. To make your sack different, you may also need tacky glue, a hole puncher, and scissors. You also need not to forget the needle and thread. They will come in handy later. Next, you will follow my steps to make the sack. First, I picked my 2 dark brown felt squares. I got my needle and thread and stitched my 3 sides together. At the end of my stitching, I tied a knot. Next, I gathered all my supplies in my basketed cup. Then I cut a piece of brown gimp for the handle and another piece for my tassel. Later, I used a hole puncher and punched 3 holes, 2 at the top for my handle and 1 at the bottom for the tassel. After that, I tied the beads to the bottom of my pouch. I added big and little beads to the tassel and tied it at the end, so the beads won't fall off. I repeated the steps above for the handle, and don't forget to tie both sides to the pouch. Later, I used tacky glue to apply normal and sparkly stickers and shaped buttons on the pouch. Last, the teachers came around taking us to take our pictures. I had a fun time making this sack, and I hope you do too. A couple days after making our trading sacks be traded, I brought in winter stickers for me to exchange with my classmates. I had traded with lots of people and got lots of cool new items. I had traded with Emily, Lindsay, Haley, Hunter, Noah, Calissa, and Jack. I had many good deals, but these were the best. I traded 2 packs of stickers for 1 loom bracelet from Lindsay. I also got a pencil and a stencil thing from Emily. To end our deal, we had to shake each other's hands, and then it was over. I had a super duper fun time trading instead of doing work.
And
He just wants to show. And Jason's going to come up and show us.
come up and show you stuff.
So we have 2 students that would like to show off the trading sacks that they made, that they designed and made themselves.
All right, so this is Jason Albanese with his trading sack and Shane Pike with his trading sack. So they enjoyed it also. All right. All right, guys.
Thank you, Mrs. Kearney. Thank you, Mrs. Peterson.
Thank
And
you.
boys and girls, we are all so proud of you. So nicely done. Thank you.
These are great skills that the students are learning. These are the same types of Google documents they use throughout the middle school and the high school. So they'll be well prepared
And this
as they
was
continue
about a
forward.
month.
Yeah,
So, I mean, it was
it's wonderful.
It was a long project. Thank you.
Fantastic job for all of the students. Thank you very much, and to parents for bringing them out so that they could share with us tonight. Please don't feel that you have to stay for the whole meeting. I understand it's a school night and there may be still homework to do. Thank you very much. All right, acknowledge and schedule visitors. Is there anyone who wishes to be acknowledged, scheduled? Mr. Ruisi?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Steve Ruisi, and I represent the Halifax Teachers Association. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. If I could ask all of my colleagues to just move a little bit closer to either side of the camera. When you look around at my colleagues, many of them are here tonight, we are a proud group of teachers and educators. We take a lot of pride in the work that we do. So tonight, on behalf of all of them, I would like to take this opportunity to address the school committee on exactly where we stand in our contract negotiations and the position that we stand behind. As you know, the Halifax Teachers Association has been working without a new contract since July 1st and has been negotiating with the school committee for over a year, unsuccessfully. We are hopefully optimistic that tomorrow's mediation session will lead to an agreement. In December, the Teachers Association formed an action committee to develop the direction and the plan that the Teachers Association would proceed with an effort to settle these negotiations while preserving the excellent education we provide to our students. And in good faith to the mediation process, our first phase of action has simply been to inform the public and the school community of our situation by wearing Fair Contract Now buttons and creating an informative Facebook site. All teachers' services and contributions that teachers provide to their students that are above and beyond their contractual responsibilities, such as volunteering, uncompensated tutoring, and classroom supply purchases, just to name a few, have continued throughout this initial action. In the event that tomorrow night's mediation session is unsuccessful in reaching an agreement, the Action Committee will then have to discuss its next course of action that it will take to settle our contract fairly. I thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight.
Not contact, but just I've been aware of what's going on with the teacher contracts, and I'm just as a parent, concerned about where this will go if there is not a fair contract made. I think I've had 4 kids in this school, 2 of whom are still here. Many of the teachers standing here have been my kids' teachers, and I can honestly say that every single one of them has been fabulous. I really hope that there's some sort of agreement that can be made that's fair to the teachers, and I wouldn't want to see the children have to, they've been really fair up to this point to be able to continue working without a contract, and I just would hate to see any further action need to be taken and for it to affect the students negatively. And I think, I know most parents I've talked to feel the same way, that we just want consistency in the great education that this school provides for our kids. So I really do hope that we can have some sort of fair contract support with teachers. So that's it. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to be acknowledged or speak? Mr. Andrews.
Hi, my name is Gordon Andrews. I'm on the Finance Committee for the Town of Halifax. Without knowing what is being requested, it's kind of difficult to hear what is a fair contract. I mean, currently, there's a contract in place. It's just like all the other towns' departments, when they're in negotiations, that contract continues. So I just hope that everyone realizes that the contract affects the bottom line for the town, and with the new budget that will be discussed later on, I have some severe thoughts about what would happen with a major increase in special education and what's going to be the impact to the town. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak at this time? Okay, thank you all. Review and approve minutes December 1st, 2014. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Oh, I'm sorry, December
1st, 2014.
Motion to approve the minutes?
There's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Aye.
Thank you. Approval of the bill schedule, signing of the warrants. The warrants are circulating, and we have a total of 8 warrants circulating for a total of $295,989,000.31. Wait a minute. $295,989.31. Is that bad? School committee correspondence and reports. Does anybody have any correspondence or reports? I did stop by Town Hall and picked up from the school committee mailbox today a copy of the request forms for capital items for fiscal 2016 town meeting, and attached is the form they would like us to fill out. And I'm handing it over to Mr. Tuffy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and I will shortly be handing it over to Mrs. Healy.
It's okay, I can't reach her. I'm not doing paper airplanes.
Come on, it's so fun. Paper football?
No. Unfinished business. Finance committee meeting schedule. All right, I forwarded you all the meeting schedule that the finance committee has approved for the rest of this year. And it does go through December. I'm going to say that we don't have to go through December. Through at least June 1st would be helpful. So I hope you all have had a minute to look at it, and hopefully you'll volunteer to take some of the meetings. I would say that, you know, our own school committee meeting, it takes a priority over the finance committee, especially during budget season. So I did mark next to each meeting that would be a conflict. I have volunteered for the January 12th meeting, and Summer has volunteered for the January 26th meeting. So the next meeting that we would need a volunteer for is Monday, February 9th. Derek, thank you.
My schedule may be changing in the next month or so.
So Monday, February 23rd?
That's fine with me for now, unless something changes.
Monday, March 9th?
I'll take that.
Monday, March 16th?
I won't be here.
I can take that one, that's not a problem. March 23rd?
I can do that. What time are those, 7?
7 o'clock, yeah. March 30th?
I'll take that one.
You'll take that one?
If there's something that arises, I'll let you know.
That's all right. Monday, April 13th. Derek? I'm not going to schedule anyone for the Tuesday, April 24th, because they may not need it. It's just on their schedule as a hold for right now, so let's do the 27th.
I can take that one. April, right?
April, yes, April 27th. And I'm not sure, is Monday, May 11th town meeting?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, okay, so none of us are taking that one, thanks. Hopefully we'll all be at town meeting. And May 18th? I can take that
Are we
one.
gonna meet after town meeting then?
Hmm?
Maybe, yeah, recap, but.
And that's the only, so that'll get us through. And if any of you have a problem attending them, just let me know. If by any chance the finance committee does cancel a meeting, I will send an email out. I am on their email list. So please check your email before you attend the meeting. Great. I did. All right, so that's, and I will send this out in written form to everyone as soon as I get it typed up. So thank you very much. All right, Building and Safety Subcommittee. Derek?
Yes, this has been sort of a project that I've been contemplating for some time, and I think this would be a good time to really discuss. I'd like to see if it would be possible to form a general committee involved with issues pertaining to general safety for the building, as well as any health concerns that may appear or arise within the school. organization. If possible, I would like to see if it could be moved from a subcommittee into a standing separate committee from the school board, which could also involve the principal, the head custodian, the school nurse, members of faculty who may wish to be participant. And the common goal, again, would be to address any potential issues, potential hazards, and any remedies that could possibly be created to prevent additional accidents, problems, or any hazards.
What's the benefit of a separate committee rather than a subcommittee?
The subcommittee would be predominant to essentially be within our own rank and file of the committee. I'd like to see if it's possible, because it would be a larger issue, to open it up to have some interaction and involvement from the general school outside of our 5 members.
Any comments, questions?
A general question, and forgive my ignorance, I'm not sure the logistics involved with creating a separate committee from nothing. How does that work exactly?
That I can't answer. Can you answer that one?
I can't, but my question exactly, what's your ability to create a committee that is not built around the members of this committee? Gosh, I don't know if I can get you an answer.
Okay.
I mean, I think I understand the question. I think that's what it is.
Okay, so I think until we have an answer to that question, we can table this until the February meeting. Okay, new business, anti-bullying policy.
If I may?
Go ahead.
Thank you. On social media over the past month or so, there's been some questions and concerns and a little confusion as to exactly what the anti-bullying policy is at Halifax Elementary School. I know that it's very extensively available online, but I just wanted to give the administration a quick opportunity just to basically go over what the process is. If a parent believes that his or her child is being bullied in any way, shape, or form, whether it be at the school, cyberbullying, what are the steps that need to be taken in order to address that issue?
Certainly. And first and foremost, I just want to respond that we adhere to the bullying prevention and intervention plan very seriously. We follow the policies and procedures for reporting and also for responding to any bullying issue here in school. Again, we take this extremely seriously. Regarding the steps that are involved, the first step is really to initiate the incident report process. And that would be to fill out some reporting forms, making sure that we're receiving that information from the staff member who has received that report of bullying. As soon as that report is received to administration, at that point, we start investigating. We conduct a very thorough investigation. We're interviewing all of the targets of bullying. Certainly the target and the alleged aggressor should be separated during this interview process. We do not ask to see or interview the target in the presence of the alleged aggressor. We encourage the target to report any other additional incidents with the alleged aggressor. We interview the alleged aggressor at length. We identify the problem. We focus more on the behavior of the alleged aggressors. Again, protecting the confidentiality of the target, which is extremely important in this case. We make sure that the alleged aggressor is aware of the consequences of retaliation against the target and the reporters. And we also interview numerous witnesses if available and if applicable. In cases of denial or if any further information is necessary, we interview the witnesses and we also document, which again is a very important part of this process. Our next step is really to initiate an action plan. If it is appropriate, we do assign a discipline. We do contact the parents and the guardians of any of the participants. We monitor the safety and we monitor it very closely. That means involving all of the staff members who have any access to the children that are involved. And our final step is really to finalize the incident report and follow up. We document the outcome of the investigation on the incident report form that's also contained on the website, and I think I have a copy of that here. It actually looks like this. So we make sure that that's filled out, and on that incident reporting form, it shows that the person who's completing the form, the date, the time, and the location of the incident, who reported the incident, student or students that were involved. To our knowledge, has this occurred before? Are there any immediate safety or transportation concerns? We have to check those off. We also fill out a very detailed description of the incident, and then we complete an action plan that's completed by either myself, Mr. Beaudry, or one of our two, either our adjustment counselor or our school psychologist. And then finally, we do a summary of the findings and create an action plan, because again, we want to make sure that all the students in our school are safe. And all this information is kept here.
Can I ask a question? What might an action plan entail?
The action plan would be, what do we need to go, what do we need to do next?
Right.
So the bullying has occurred. What do we need to do to protect that child, to make sure that that child is safe? Does it mean that we need to monitor, a bus situation? Do we need to, follow that child throughout the day and maintain their safety? There are a lot of ifs. It depends on the situation. If it were a cyberbullying situation, we may have conversations with the parents revolving using, appropriate cell phone devices and monitoring that.
Just one more question. What kind of action is taken towards the perpetrator? Yeah.
I think it varies on the situation. I think based on the severity, it could be anything from, loss of bus privileges. It could be a school suspension. Again, it varies to the situation.
If there's a parent who believes they're going through the process and doesn't believe they're reaching a satisfactory resolution, what steps can they take then?
The next step is really to contact me or Mr. Beaudry, the assistant principal, and really let's just sit down and let's talk about it. While confidentiality revolving around the other person is paramount, I can certainly assure them that we do take this very seriously, and I think sitting down and having a face-to-face meeting is really the most important thing, to make sure that they feel comfortable with the fact that we are taking this seriously.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions? No? Thank you. Report of standing committees. Policy. We have the second readings of policies ADDA, ADDAR, DJE, GCCD, JH, JIC, and JK. I would like a motion to waive the readings.
So moved.
I'm sorry. Doesn't matter. Second.
Second, okay. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions. All right. Are there any questions regarding any of these policies? Seeing none, is there a motion to accept the second reading of policies ADDA, ADDA-R, DJE, GCCD, JH, JIC, and JK?
So made.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Thank you. Negotiations.
As previously noted, we are meeting with the mediator tomorrow and hope that we can come to a resolution regarding this issue. We continue to negotiate in good faith, and I'm sure everyone would like a resolution to this as quickly as possible. We are also meeting with the cafeteria workers this week in hopes of getting that taken care of. Is that correct?
I don't have a meeting with the cafeterias, but we do
I
need
thought we had one on Wednesday.
No?
I don't know. Talk about it later.
Okay, well, we do need an executive session for negotiations at the end of this meeting.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, Pilgrim Program Area Collaborative. We had a meeting on December 4th. The board completed the evaluation of the executive director. She was rated as proficient. She has been placed on a 2-year evaluation cycle and will be bringing forward her goals for the next cycle to the next board meeting. The board approved the annual report for fiscal 2014 as per state regulations. I have received a hard copy as chairperson of the Halifax Elementary School Committee. I did ask for an electronic copy and received one, and if any of the school committee members would like a copy, I will forward the electronic copy, so if you let me know. It is a very lengthy document, just so you know. Here it is, it's very well put together, but it gives a good overview of what the collaborative does. So just let me know if you would like it, and I will send it out. And we have begun the initial dates for our negotiations with our professional staff as well at the collaborative. Any questions? And our January meeting has been canceled, which worked out very well. It was set for Thursday night. All right, liaison, youth and recreation.
Yes. First was a request of thanks for all participants who were involved with the Holidays in Halifax activities. This was a astonishingly well-attended occasion. In fact, it was very difficult to get people to leave at the end of the night. We were told till fireworks. We are entering into session 2 of the Silver Lake Future Stars, which is the basketball program for first and second graders, held 8:30 to 9:30. The dates for this month are January 4th, 11th, 18th, and 25th. Session 3 will begin February 1st, the 8th, the 15th, and the 22nd. Fees are $45, and includes t-shirt. The Sportsman's program is currently in session 4 from the 6th to the 29th of this month. Session 5 will begin on February 3rd and February 5th. Currently, dances for 5th and 6th grade and 7th and 8th grade are scheduled, but to be determined, and will be posted on the webpage.
Are there any questions? Thank you. PTO.
I didn't see a meeting listed for December. It's not shown on the website, so I don't know if there was a meeting, but they didn't list one.
Okay, no meeting for December, okay. Capital.
What was it?
16th.
So the next meeting is Friday, January 15th?
Friday, January 16th.
16th at 9 a.m.? Okay. Capital budget.
Yes, currently, we are still in phases of finding the fees and costs for several projects that we are looking to do for the building, including the exterior, the paint and trim. We are going to bring in the very kind people that helped us out with that. I've been in touch with the Plymouth County Sheriff's Office to find out some information about that, and they're still trying to get back to me. I'm looking to find out about expenses for repair to broken water fountains. Am I saying this right? I know it's not New England to say so, but...
It's a bubbler.
Bubbler.
No, that's a geyser. It's okay, in Kansas it's a hydrant, but that's by the point. In addition, to see about roof repairs that we have been talking about for some time, I'm going to be in touch with the principal as well as the superintendent's office to find out what we can dig up from past records.
Any questions? Administrative review. The superintendent's evaluation has been compiled and it is set to be presented at a public meeting Thursday night, January 8th at 6 p.m. at the joint meeting between the Union 31 and Silver Lake.
You say 6?
6 p.m.
I'm sorry, my phone totally crashed, and so I lost my whole calendar. Not cool. And where is it?
the high school large group room, which is located above the library.
Thank you.
Not a problem. Union 31. We had a meeting on December 8th. There will be a meeting of the bylaw review committee on January 7th at 3 p.m. To review the request of how a chairperson is selected for the administrative review subcommittee. We discussed tentative shared cost budget needs. One of the discussions we had was a shared cost facilities manager who would be beneficial to all the elementary schools. This proposal has not come forward. It was just a conversation we had. The next meetings for Union 31 are January 8th at 6 p.m. at the high school and January 26, 2015 at 6 p.m. at Dennett Elementary. Any questions? No? Okay. Administration, principal's report.
Thank you. Our current enrollment is 566 students, and believe it or not, we're already starting to look at enrollment for next year, for the 15-16 school year. We've contacted Town Hall to find out what the census looks like and what our numbers look like for the incoming kindergarten class. While we don't have a complete number, as we don't have a complete census yet, we're hoping to have the rest of the, or we're hoping to have a complete number by the end of January. But currently we do have 55 students registered in the town of Halifax that will be coming to kindergarten next year. So we have a good head start already with some good numbers. On Monday, December 1st at approximately 10 a.m. we did have our lockdown drill, which was planned and scheduled. It actually went quite well. We had, it was done in coordination with the Halifax Police Department and the Halifax Fire Department. What happens on the days that we do have a lockdown drill is the announcement is made from the main office. At that point, the school immediately locks down. All of the doors are locked, the lights are shut off. When you're walking through the school, it's almost eerie because it appears that no one's in the school at all. You can't visually see any students from any of the windows. You can't hear any of the students. So accompanied by the fire department, the police department, Mr. Beaudry and I, we walk the building, check doors to make sure everything's locked. Actually at the very end, things went quite well. Fire and police department again couldn't believe that there was no one in the building. We did have a couple of things that we're working on, but ultimately we did a really, really good job and feel quite confident that the students, when we do have a lockdown drill, will be safe. After the drill, we always have a short meeting to debrief with our team. And again, we had some rave reviews as to how well the students and the staff did. So we're going to be planning another one coming up soon. And I'm sure that we'll do equally as well. Progress reports for our second term will be going home on Monday, January 26th. I feel like we just sent out the report cards, but it's already that time now to send out progress reports. I'd like to talk a little bit about our new head custodian, and hopefully some of you will have an opportunity to meet him. His name is Matt Durkee, and Matt Durkee comes to us from Plymouth. He was working at the Plymouth North High School, and he started on December 15th. He was a custodial team leader there, supervising a crew of 4 additional custodians. He brings to us a wide breadth of experience in school custodial needs, carpentry, electrical work, commercial and residential pump systems, roofing, and as well as commercial fishing in the Gulf of Alaska. So he's had a very diverse background. He lives in Kingston with his wife and 2 young children, and we are very pleased to have him be part of our team here in Halifax. So I hope you have an opportunity to welcome him to our school. And actually his first big task was over school vacation week, we did have a couple of issues regarding our boiler. Matt was able to coordinate both commercial boiler systems and mechanical air to resolve the problems, maintain heat throughout the building, and be able to open school today. I know that Kane was here when the first issue occurred. I was here when the second issue occurred. So Kane, if you wanted to talk about the first issue that happened.
Sure. It was a great experience for Mr. Durkee to be here. He was able to familiarize himself with the new boiler. So he got to meet commercial boiler and mechanical air and talk with the representatives about what we had going on. So the univents in 2 of the classrooms actually, they got some cool air into the back sides of the system, and the pipes had burst. And then the pressure in the system actually was dropped a little bit. And Mr. Durkee was on top of it. He was alerted right away, and he reported on scene, and he was able to contact commercial boiler and mechanical air to meet with them, and they addressed the situation right on the spot. It was dealt with pretty quickly. The systems were repaired, and the heat in the building was up and running by the end of the day on both situations. So he was able to, again, sit down with commercial boiler and mechanical air and work with the relationship between the two and himself, and familiarize himself with all parties. So he's done a great job just kind of getting to know the school and the systems in place here, and be able to fix issues on the spot quickly as needed. So we thank him again for coming on and being there to answer all the calls over that long break.
And finally, on our calendar of events, the PTO meeting will be on the 16th at 9 a.m. in the morning. There is no school on Martin Luther King Day, which is the 19th. On the 20th, we have our district in-service day, and there will be no school for the students. The 26th, our progress reports go home, and on the 28th, we have our school council meeting at 3 p.m. And that's all I have.
Are there any questions? Was there any damage to the classrooms?
Actually, there were some textbooks, very minimal, that were damaged. So we're going to be ordering some of those to replace. Mostly the soft cover math workbooks, and that was in one 5th grade classroom. So a handful of math workbooks, a couple of hardcover reading books. That's pretty much it. So we were very, very fortunate.
Yes. Thank you.
The coils are behind the univent, so they're protected by this massive metal container. So it was pretty protected. So anything that happened was mainly on the floor and ended up leaking out. But like I said, Mr. Durkee and Mr. Spalewski came in quickly and cleaned it up, and they took care of it and shut down the system on either end so that there wasn't any further damage.
So there's no floor damage, there's no, and I'm trying to remember where 5th grade is. No, 5th grade's up in that hallway, so there's nothing under. Okay. All right. Our school improvement plan?
I'm sorry?
You want us to vote on your school improvement plan?
Oh, yes, thank you. I was hoping that that would happen tonight. Did everyone have an opportunity to review it?
I actually have mentions.
All right.
I'm going to abstain from voting on it.
Okay. So is there a motion to approve the school improvement plan for 2014 through 2017? Wow. So is there a second? Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Thank you.
Assistant Superintendent.
Thank you. Right before the holidays, Mrs. Mata sent a letter out regarding NAEP testing. It's commonly known as the Nation's Report Card. We were chosen to give out the NAEP test. It's a national test, and it will be given out for students in grade 4, and it's going to be given on February 5th. There are no results that are reported for the students or for the school. Parents who are not interested in having their children participate can send a note in and let Mrs. Mata know. And there's only statewide data will be available. This test is given in grades 4, 8, and 12. Our 12th grade students at the high school were also chosen, 50 students there. Last year in Massachusetts, grade 4 and grade 8 were #1 in the country for the NAEP reading test. They tied for first. And in mathematics last year, we tied for first with 2 other states on the grade 4 math and outperformed all other states on the grade 8 math assessment. So Massachusetts has always performed very well. Again, parents will get no results. The school gets no results. It's strictly to see how students in Massachusetts are performing throughout the country. So I wasn't sure if anyone had any questions or concerns, but the letter went out on the 18th and I believe was sent to the school committee. I believe I sent it to you before the holidays, but it was a busy time, so.
Sure.
Lori Costa-Klein. What is the school's, what return on investment do you get by having the children in our school participate in that test?
There isn't a per se return on investment. Any school who receives any Title I funds, generally you are obligated to offer it, I guess. But as a parent, if you're uncomfortable with your child taking it, you have the right to opt out. It's a 90-minute test. It's paper and pencil. And again, it gives the families in Massachusetts a sense of how we rate relative to students across the country, but not on any sort of an individual basis.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Joy, I recall that we've done this in the past.
We did it 2 years ago here.
Okay.
2 years ago, we had the same. We were given it last year. We gave it in Denon. It's just sort of a
cycle of,
yeah, luck of the draw.
okay.
The only other thing that I wanted to mention was our January 20th Professional Development Day, and that will be a full day, and that is the Tuesday after the Martin Luther King Day, so families get a 4-day weekend for those people who enjoy skiing. And on the January 20th day, we're going to be doing a full day training with the Writers Workshop, and that will be around our writing program for our students, the Lucy Calkins program. And we have some presenters coming in from New York. We're pretty excited about it. They'll be working with all of our K-2 teachers in one group and 3-5 teachers in another group. Our 6th grade teachers will be having the same day, type of day that our K-5 teachers had in November, which was a half day of technology, half day working on some of their assessments, because they were doing their PD day in November. It kind of flip-flopped this year. Our specialists will be working in groups on some of the areas that they wanted to work on. Some of it is curriculum-based, some of it is regarding assessments. And we're looking forward to a great day.
Are there any questions? All right. Superintendent.
There are 2 items to talk about tonight. One is the monthly financial statement, and the other is the first shot at the budget that we've given out tonight. Christine Healy, our business manager, your business manager, is here with me tonight, so she gets to do the monthly financial statement. We could tell people where we are, and then we can start to talk about the budget and perhaps answer some questions if you want.
Thank you. Tonight, once again, you have your yellow financial statement that includes all of the warrants that are being passed around tonight. We're halfway through the year, and there are very few areas of concern, with the exception of the special education area. The most significant deficit is in the special education out-of-district tuition account, and that is on page 6. It's the last account listed, and we're seeing a deficit there right now of $94,000. But for the end of the year, once we use all of our circuit breaker money, we expect to be at a deficit of $50,000. On the financial, it does not reflect all the circuit breaker money that we expect to receive, so that's why the deficit there is higher than what we're expecting for the end of the year. In addition to that, there is also a significant deficit in the contracted services account, which is just a couple of inches above it. There's a deficit of $46,800, and that's where we expect to be for the end of the year. The things that we've found, there are additional services that are being required for students. There's been a slight increase in the hourly rate of the physical therapists and occupational therapists. And there have been an increase in the assessments that have been needed to be taken care of. As you can see, if you look at the New Year budget, we've increased that line dramatically to reflect the activity that's actually been going through there. And the special education department feels that that's the kind of activity they're going to need for next year also. The only other item that I wanted to mention is also on that same page is a deficit of $156, and that's in the supplies and materials, psychological services. That's in the third line down. Those are mostly for testing materials that have been needed, and we've needed more testing materials than we had expected, and the price is just slightly higher, so that's what that deficit's from. And then the one bright spot is on the very last page, the out-of-district vocational education account. There's a surplus of $101,000, and we do expect, so long as nothing else happens, that's what it'll be for the end of the year. We had budgeted for 5 students that were going out of district, and all had applied. Only 2 ended up attending. And we're expecting of those 2, and not one of them to be returned for next year. 101,812.
Did you say that the 2 that are going this year, only one's going back?
One is graduating.
Okay.
That's a good thing.
That
One's
makes
graduating.
All right.
They are a 12th grader.
That clears things up a little bit better. Thank you. Are there any questions on the financial?
Any questions?
Can we have better news next month?
The rest of the financial looks really great.
Yeah.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
So the 15-16 budget. You have before you a copy of really a level service budget. There are a couple of things you need to talk about, but it's essentially a level service budget between this year and next year. I guess starting at the bottom of the page first, out-of-district vocational education, just to talk about that very quickly. As you heard, we only have 1 student we know of coming back next year. It certainly is a larger enablement than 1 student would take. It's $153,000. However, people have until April 1st, April Fool's Day, to apply for an out-of-district vocational placement. So we've got a ways to go before we know how that's going to end up. We're not sure how that's going to turn out. We fully expect that 1 student that we have who's currently an 11th grader will in fact go back next year. The bad news of this budget, if you will, is contained in that bottom of the cover page, and that has to do with out-of-district special education. You heard about a deficit this year that really means that we're going to face the full wrath of it next year. The way we budget for out-of-district programs is we go through the list of students that we currently have and say, what do we know about their placement next year? Is it going to stay the same? Is it going to be different? Will they require more service or less services? And do we know if anybody's moving in or anybody's aging out? We go through all of that, and we have assumed there'd be an increase in costs of 3%. All of these programs are state approved programs, and the tuition rates are set by the state, not by us or the supplier. And then based upon that, we come up with the cost of out-of-district tuition. We subtract from that what we think we're going to get in circuit breaker. And at this point in time, we're assuming it's going to be 50%. And this year we're actually getting 65%. When the governor actually comes out with a budget, we'll have a better sense of what that number is going to be. But that's where that's coming from. And that number is showing an increase of overall of 30% between tuition and transportation. Unfortunately, with the way the circuit breaker program works, we see the expense next year in 16, and we get reimbursed for it in 17. So there's a year's lag between getting paid for it. It's a reimbursement program as opposed to Chapter 70, which we think of as in the current year payment of state aid. If we look at the rest of the budget, a couple of things to bear in mind, and then we can talk about it. And I realize this is the first time you've seen it, so I'm sure you'll have some questions, and maybe next month you'll have some more questions. We can go over it in some detail then. We haven't adjusted the utilities yet. It's still early. 2 things. We don't really know what electricity is going to do. Charlie's in the process of negotiating some new contracts. We need to take that into account. The other thing is we have a new boiler. It should be more energy efficient than what we had last year. We're just starting to see the heating season and what that's going to mean. I say that recognize that we had some assumed savings in this year's budget for gas, so we really need to see what that turns out to be. We have not adjusted shared cost yet, but that's really a relatively minor portion of your budget. The budget that we finally produce for next year will be offset by about $11,000 in rental income we get for this building. We get about, that's between what we collect from the YMCA and what we get from Pilgrim Area Collaborative for the use of a room and a shared room. So that will help reduce the overall budget by about $11,000. A couple of other things that we will be talking about as we go forward. There will be, if you approve it, a capital request to air condition the computer room. The room behind Mr. Andrews over there that says storage room is our computer room. There is no air conditioning in it. Now, back when the building was built and it was designed, that made sense. We had mostly PCs. We have since added quite a number of servers that sit in that room that gets hot. So we really need to deal with air conditioning in there. It's about $11,000 to put an air conditioning unit in there. We are assuming that there'll be a technology article next year, as there was for this year, to deal with really the replacement of equipment and some additional equipment. One of the line items that has this tremendous percentage increase, 477%, I suspect that caught your eye.
Just a little.
So let me tell you about that. That is half the cost. What's driven that increase is half the cost of a tech person to work for the town of Halifax. I know that Charlie Seelig, town manager, will be moving forward with a request for a technical person, a person to do really desktop support, first level support of computers, has asked if we would be interested in sharing that person in a 50-50 arrangement, so that's half the projected cost. If the finance committee approves it and it goes through on the town side, it's assumed that it'll go through on our side. If it doesn't, then that comes out. And I mentioned circuit breaker before, and the vocational person. So that's sort of the highlights of the budget. A couple other things to keep in mind as you look at some of these increases. When it comes to textbooks, the textbook is a number that right now is a work in progress, and that is because we really need to deal with what we're going to be doing with science books for next year. We talked about that last month. We know a change is coming. We know we need to deal with it. We've made an educated guess and enablement for the cost of textbooks for science, but I really can't tell you what they are at this point in time. And then finally, under replacement of equipment, there are a couple of items in there that are by their very nature expensive. We're looking at dealing with the carpeting in the front hallway, which you see when you first come in, and then finally some cafeteria tables, which by themselves are expensive to replace, and it may be time to change those as well. Yes?
Could that actually be lumped into a collective for replacement of equipment that could be presented to at town meeting?
That may be.
You mean like on a separate article?
No one individual item is large enough to qualify. Does it get qualified as a group because they have a similar lifespan? Gosh, I don't know. That's a wonderful question. They certainly are not reoccurring items. There's no question about that. Other than that, in terms of the staff in the building, it's the exact staff next year as we have this year. There's no additions, no deletions, except for the tech person that we talked about.
Can I ask a question? Yeah, I'm going to pass the fine. So can you tell me what the job responsibility of the tech person would be? What the job description of that position is?
Well, the job description is still being developed by Town Hall, but in general, that description would be to provide desktop support for our staff, to be able to effect minor repairs when it comes to computers, to make sure that the software is up to date, that resolve conflicts that happen with printers, to to be sure that the backup arrays are up and running, and so in fact, in the event of a large crash or a big problem, that it could be, we actually do have a backup of that data. It hasn't gone to Never Never Land. Those sorts of things.
And how is that managed currently at the school level?
At the school level, it's done a little bit by staff that we have in the building. Some teachers that are tech savvy and are willing to help out. It's getting a little more complicated than it used to be as we move more applications to the cloud, and we integrate technology more and more into the classroom, into the regular classroom as well as the special education classrooms. And then we rely on district support through the tech director. In extremely complicated cases, what we've done is we have an enablement in there, and that's about the $4,000 that's in there in most years to hire somebody on the outside to come in. Over the summer, in the last few years, we've been able to create a temporary position to have somebody come in and dismantle all the computers, clean them out, put them back together, and run them as a temp employee. So that's how we've dealt with it. No problem.
From what I've seen, we have a need, not only in this building, but townwide for this type of position. As I've talked to the superintendent and a little bit across the street, it makes sense to share this position. I don't think any town department needs one full-time by itself. This is just the beginning of this process and the beginning of the discussions, but it does need to be included in the budget if it is going to move forward. At any time the town decides that it doesn't want to move forward with it, the position would come out and we would still do as we've been doing. But as John said, it is going to get more and more complicated to do that sort of work with the piecemeal that we've done over the years.
Good question, Casey. Do you know if this total represents the 50-50 split?
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
That's only our...
That's only our share. I just want to make sure that was clear. Okay.
Can I ask one follow-up question to that? Is there an opportunity to incorporate into the responsibilities of this person some responsibility for educating our children on privacy and good practices in terms of technology?
I'm not sure that that's where... I don't think that this position would be teaching. This is going to be...
I'm just asking. I think that there's a need in the school for that, a significant one, as we move further and further towards the technology-based education system. So I think my recommendation as a parent, as a citizen, and somebody voting at town meeting would be, I'd really love to see that be a requirement. And I'd feel more comfortable voting at town meeting for that position, if that were part of it.
Well, if this goes forward, we'd love your support. So please don't. Having said that, I think that as we design this, I think this is frankly going to be more a technical and than an educational position. The whole idea of computer literacy is very important. I think that we may be looking at something along the lines of training our teachers about that, to incorporate that in their lesson plans and frankly in their daily activity, because it's one thing to have somebody on a more as an on-needed basis to come in and provide some instruction. It really is that reinforcement that goes every day when you're faced with a computer screen and a request or a seductive email or pop-up ad or something like that. And I think those are those, as we often talk about, teachable moments to remind our students that stop and think about it, and don't give up your name, don't give up any information, things like that.
Might also help with cyberbullying.
John, can I skip down to a line?
Sure.
Under special ed, psychological services is jumping quite a bit. Could you just offer a brief explanation?
Sure. As Mrs. Healy talked about before, we've seen an increase in what we might call contracted services, those support services for families that are required. And sometimes it involves testing, for instance, to identify needs. Many of those expenses in the past were covered by grants. There's a special education grant that we get, every school district gets. It has been decreasing as time goes on. At the same time, costs have been increasing and demands have been increasing. So we have two things going in opposite directions. The deficit that Christine talked about in special education is in that line item. And so that's what we're dealing with. This is more a case of not additional requirements for service, but rather having to continue to provide services without the grants that used to be behind it to pay for it.
Unfunded mandate?
Well, something like that.
Underfunded mandate.
Underfunded is probably a better way to say it, yes. But yes.
The state will say that it does not have any unfunded mandates, but many underfunded mandates.
I understand.
So, Gordon?
I'd just like to point out that the total increase currently in this budget is $686,700. And that is more than what the town could increase taxes. So just for this budget, we'd be looking at a Prop 2.5 override. So I just want to make everyone aware of that. And that's why my previous statement, I'm so nervous about this budget, because we haven't even looked at Silver Lake or any other town departments.
This budget is based on a lot of unknowns.
But I agree.
And we are trying to give the town and the finance committee what it's asking for as a budget in the first week of January. Without even seeing a governor's budget to say, you know, where state aid's going to come in or anything else. As John talked about, we don't know where circuit breaker's going to come in. I have a lot of questions, but, you know, we're trying to work with you on what you want. And, you know, we did say, you know, it's early, and we have a long time to go before we vote a budget. We're not looking to vote this tonight. This is our first shot at looking at it as ourselves. You know, I'm sure the committee itself is going to have a lot of questions and stuff, so I know you want realer numbers, but this is the process.
That's here on cable that this is a scary scenario.
And I understand it.
I just want clarification. Gordon, what you're saying that the unused levy would be spent, and in addition to that, we would be using the entire 2.5% that we could go up in our tax bill.
And more.
Okay, so keep that in mind. We know that this is a first draft, and so I'm not super panicked about a lot of the things that are within the budget. But as you know, the one thing that you may not have a choice in is the SPED number. So if there are real students tied to the SPED number, there's not a lot of flexibility. The only flexibility that you have is the percentage of which we decide that we may be getting from the governor's budget. So right now it's budgeted at 50%. Last year, as John mentioned, it was 65%. That's not that much of a difference in money that's going to not get to the levy. Do you know what I mean? So I think that's what Gordon's initial response is that, oh my goodness, forget the other needs that we may need, you know, that are, you know, the air conditioning for the room and the tech person and all, you know, all those other things. The reality is this is just one budget within, and again, it's totally out of your power as a school committee, totally out of our power as a district. We have to pay for the education of the students in that particular line item, no questions asked.
Are there any other questions about the budget? Seeing none?
And while we're talking about budgets, let me just bring up one other thing, and that is the annual budget hearing that we're required to have.
Okay, yes.
And it needs to be advertised in the paper, and again, the idea of a budget hearing is required by law, and it's an opportunity for people to come forward and express their views about the budget. Now, we're pretty liberal here about hearing what people have to say, but nonetheless, we have this requirement. We have often had that in March. We vote a budget often in April, and we have a town meeting in May. And I mean, my suggestion is that we have the March school committee meeting be the public budget hearing for planning purposes. If we wind up with a snowstorm in March, we still have the opportunity to do it in April. So if that meets the committee's approval, I will just go ahead and schedule that.
Does anybody have a problem with that? Okay.
Good idea.
We will have a public budget hearing at our March meeting then.
Thank you.
All right. Is there a motion to go into executive session for the purposes of negotiations, only to return to open session to adjourn?
So good.
All right, roll call. Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Aye.